Hello and welcome to the Milltown Way, the independent Shamrock Rovers podcast covering all things hoops. I'm your host, Ryan Brennan. Coming up on this week's episode, I'll be looking back on Shamrock Rovers' 2-0 win away to Waterford, discussing Roberto Lopes and Cape Verde's impressive 0-0 draw with Spain at the World Cup, taking a look at the European draws, and finally previewing Monday night's game against Derry City in Tallaght Stadium. There's plenty to get into, and I'm just after arriving back from Waterford. So this is a late recording, probably our favourite type of recording at here at the Milltown Way. If you can't sense the sarcasm, it's because I'm too tired to have some sarcasm in my voice. But yeah, look, there's plenty to get into, so we may as well start off with the game that's just preceded us, and that's the one that I've just arrived back from, as said, and that is from Waterford. Rovers winning 2-0, a much needed victory, it must be said as well. And to top it all off, not only was it a must-need victory and they got it, but it was actually a very good performance as well. So, positive on all fronts essentially there. Heading into that game, like Rovers they did have 3 defeats in their previous 5. Heading into the game against Waterford, probably a little bit confidence, maybe taking a bit of a dip as well. Bearing in mind that the last time Rovers had gone to the RSC this season, it ended in a 1-1 draw, and well, Rovers looked probably the luckier side to come away with the point as opposed to maybe dropping 2 points. It looked more like a point gained, whereas it was a different occasion tonight. Rovers won 2-0, very convincing. Should have been more, maybe. Could have been more. There were times where they did concede chances as well from Waterford, but predominantly I think Rovers were the better side, of course, for the vast majority of the night. For the most part, they didn't look like they were going to concede. There were moments where they might have let Waterford in, and it got maybe a little bit too comfortable, a little bit too casual, and a couple of mistakes here and there to be expected. But look, overall, Rovers dominated the game, got 3 points, got 2 goals. As I said, it could have been more, but it wasn't to be. But look, it's a night where it was a win, an important one at that. Pats won late on, ended up getting 2 goals. Against Sligo in their game against Sligo Rovers tonight as well. 2 goals in stoppage time meant they won 2-0 and keep applying that pressure on Stephen Bradley's side. But look, on the Rovers front, all they can do is win, and they've done that again tonight. And well, when you're listening to this, it'll be last night. But yeah, look, it was positive. Of course, look for large parts, and yeah, look, it was overall a sound out performance, I think. Impressive performances all around the pitch as well, must be said. Graham Burke went down early on, and I think that caused maybe a few people's alarm bells to be rung, I think, when he went down, thinking, is there an adequate replacement for him? Look, I know inevitably there was. Essentially, Michael Noonan comes on the pitch, scores a goal, and Aaron Green came on the pitch, and the two of them made a very good impact on the game, all things considered as well. So, and obviously one getting a goal, but yeah, look, he went down early on. It was roughly about 16 minutes in when Burke went down, and it looked like, not that it might not have been off the ball, but it was kind of one of them that everyone looked back to see he was on the ground, and Rovers went attacking again. He stayed down, so it wasn't just a case of trying to go down, maybe buy a free kick or whatever the case may be. He seemed to be down, and it seemed to be serious at the time. But look, he obviously comes away, and he's fine now, which is the main thing, and contributed to Rovers winning the game, winning 2-0, and yeah, look, it was positive. I think there was a few chances from early on as well. Look, Rovers, I thought I thought they were going to be getting off on the front foot early on, scoring early. Jake Mulroney had a chance about 5 minutes in. The keeper ends up saving it with his feet. And I thought Jake, again, he had a good performance. I know, look, he has his critics and so on. I know there are moments where he does, maybe he's not performing at the levels he has in him, which he shows. But I thought tonight, look, you have to give him his flowers. And I thought he was really good. There was moments, yeah, look, he made 1 or 2 mistakes, but sure doesn't every footballer in every game. But yeah, look, with Jake, give it a bit more time. I think you'll end up seeing like his first, or not his first, but I think you'll end up seeing him now come into his own, and look, you're seeing exactly what Bradley wants out of him, and I think on a lot more occasions now he's producing exactly what Bradley wants. Oftentimes he's switching flanks. He's done it on numerous occasions himself and Adam Brennan today, switching between the left and the right. But I thought the lads were really positive on both sides there. No complaints can be had. John McGovern had a good impact as well. He set up Jake Mulroney as well. That was only a couple of minutes after his first shot, but again, that was straight at the keeper on that occasion. Graham Burke was really good at the start of the game too. He was causing issues down that left, kind of you don't want to say left wing. It's not really left wing, but it is the left side. Like, I know he's probably that left-sided striker, but obviously look, with Burke, he roams around the pitch. Just under 15 minutes into the game, Ed McGinty had made a mishap, and it led to kind of a half chance. McGinty's one who's kind of having maybe a bit more critics at him lately, particularly after that Shelbourne defeat, where maybe calls have been made he might have been at fault for both of the goals. Look, goalkeeper's the most scrutinised position on the pitch, and anyways, but yeah, look, he should have done better against Shelbourne, and making that mishap, it's kind of, I think at the moment it's only going to add to his concerns, maybe personally. But look, a clean sheet overall as well. You can't be too downtrodden over that. Hayden Cann was a positive player for Waterford, I must say, and he had he struck from distance on a couple of occasions and tested Rovers as well, but tested McGinty too. And then that was about 20 minutes in, and Waterford saw a bit more of the ball. So they were constructing a bit more nicer passages of play as well. And again, that just leading to maybe that thought of, Rovers getting a bit more comfortable, a bit too casual, and ultimately leads to the concession of chances. And look, it's going to happen. But yeah, look, about half an hour in, Waterford then, they had a shot. They had a couple of shots that ended up being, I think it was blocked by Andy Stevens at the time, and then it leads to a save as well, and then that leads to a corner. And on that occasion, you're thinking, well, if Waterford are, a bit of momentum, you don't know what way the game is going to go, particularly after Rovers. As I said, they were dominant for a large spell to this game. They didn't look overly, Waterford didn't look overly threatening. As I said, they had their moments, but moments where they're growing into the game and stuff, and thinking, as I said just now, you're thinking, if it only takes one kick of the ball and all of a sudden, you find yourself behind and you should be maybe ahead by one or two. But yeah, look, then you had a mishap again, maybe from Ed McGinty, where a goal kick leads. Well, it wasn't even McGinty, but they're putting each other under pressure at times when they give a short, and they're trying to play it out from the back, and it leads to a Waterford chance. I think it might have been Jack Byrne at that time that was dispossessed. Also, must be said from that away end, incredibly hard to see. I think probably everyone had the same issue, seeing that, obviously look, the sun shining, and it's beaming right down on that away end, and I had sunglasses on that didn't do enough of a job. Really, they're working overtime and still having to put the arm up, switching arms because you're getting tired throughout the game. Never mind the lads who are running up and down the pitch for 90 minutes. Even tomorrow that your arm's getting tired trying to block out that sun. So yeah, some of the players, I don't know. I think I don't know, playing out from the back, it can lead to the issues. And but yeah, look, there was then throughout that first half, Jake and Adam had been swapping flanks. On numerous occasions, I noticed as well. I tried to pick up on it as much as I could, but yeah, look, obviously whatever the instructions are from Stephen downward, look, the two lads trying to maybe get a bit more joy down the opposite flanks. They might not have been getting as much joy on their own respective flanks, but yeah, look, I think the two lads did well. Jake, I thought, probably performed slightly better over Adam. But look, Adam was impressive as well, and he had positive patches of play too. But John McGovern as well, he had the first of a double chance, and it led to a Rovers corner. Again, that was shown. That was just directly after the goal as well. Just to outline McGovern's impact as well. When he starts, he does make a good impact. He can't be doubted for that. But 37 minutes in, Rovers did take the lead. Graham Burke had a nice passage where he kind of dribbles past one or two players. He gives it out to Adam Brennan out on the left wing, and he slightly brings the ball in, across the ball into the box. He finds Dylan Watts and heads it home. 37 minutes in, Rovers take the lead. And yeah, look, I think when the goal goes in, you're kind of thinking, hopefully now this is where Rovers kick on and make it look like a more of a routine victory more than, maybe not backs to the wall in Waterford, but a bit more of a pressure cooker where you're thinking you're still on that edge of thinking, it's a 1 goal game, or when it was goalless, thinking if it, you still, either way, if you can see a goal, whether you're 1-0 up or whether it's goalless, a goal changes the perspective of the game. But yeah, look, Adam Brennan found Watts well, and yeah, look, he takes his chance well too, and yeah, look, that leads then to Rovers again. As I said, dominate. They had a bit more momentum then, and what that does then is it has a knock-on effect the away end, increases its volume, and fans are getting behind the team. And overall the game gets louder, and Rovers then I think feed off that, create more chances then as well. Then you have John McGovern. He makes a run, and he finds Dylan Watts, who hits it just wide. That's in stoppage time of the first half as well. Just from that note of the game as well. But then just before the break as well, Watford can have a nutting ball. Ed McGinty very close to spilling it and making that 1-1. That was in the 45th plus second minute, 47th minute, but of the first half. But that was the last kind of moment of the opening half. At half time, I made a note that I thought Rovers should be further ahead, dominating for large parts. What I'm kind of relaying here, but dominate for large parts of the game, but kind of nothing seeming to break Watford down by that moment. Obviously, look with Adam Brennan linking up with Dylan Watts. But then there was patches where I thought Rovers are looking like they're going to be letting Waterford back in. Ultimately they don't, which is the mainstay of this, and the most important thing is that they didn't. Second half comes out, then not much goes for the first few minutes of the second half. Dylan Watts has a chance from distance, makes the keeper work. Then John McGovern makes an inward run possession, but by the time he gets in front of the goal, he ends up blasting it over. And then again, I think it was on the hour mark, Jake Mulroney delivers a ball into the back of the post, back into the back post, finds Adam Brennan, and his headed effort hits the post, and it goes out for a goal kick. But again, just outlining that Mulroney impact, and he did have a good impact on the game, and one of his better performances. And I think, look, with more regular game time, he's going to improve game on game. There's no doubt about that. And then again, you had more of Jake and Adam swapping flanks. About 70 minutes in, or just before that, there's a double sub where both Michael Noonan and Aaron Green come on, and they make almost an instant impact. Having around 71 minutes into the game, so just literally right after they come onto the pitch, Michael Noonan seems on, but then he doesn't slip Aaron Green in, who seems to be true on goal, and then it just leads to a spell where Rovers are dispossessed. Adam Brennan, I think, gets dispossessed out on the flank, but yeah, particularly remember that moment thinking if he had slipped Aaron Green in, I think that probably makes it 2-0 in that moment. But it also was good to see a positive impact straight off the bench. A few minutes later, not even 5 minutes later, both Green and Noonan continued to make an impact. Green slipped in, Noonan, the ball kind of gets stuck at his feet around the halfway line. You're thinking that's another golden opportunity that Rovers didn't take, and maybe thinking again, if they don't take these chances, Waterford might make them pay. It's within them, I know obviously, look, they have been poor this season, only 2 wins this season, but sure, look, Rovers saw the last time they were at the RSC that it ended 1-1, and very easily could have been a Waterford win. However, obviously for Rovers, thankful that it doesn't go that way. But then only a couple of minutes later, I think Waterford create a kind of a half chance. Ball's delivered in, gets headed out of the box, and then Hayden can again. He has a chance from this. He has a go from distance. Anyways, he has to make McGinty work. He does, but again, you're just kind of that thing. It's that kind of train of thought of it's only a 1-goal game at the end of the day. At that point, what if switch off for a moment and you get punished, and that's what happens in this league as well. Nearly on 80 minutes as well, Adam Brennan makes a run down the wing, finds Michael Noonan, but he doesn't make a clean connection when it goes over the bar. Again, it's good. Again, you're seeing the positive impact from Michael Noonan coming off the bench, and you're hoping to see that he kind of rekindles that form that he has, and you look. There's a reason that all the clubs are sniffing around from. Nottingham Forest. I read only recently or today I think it was that Nottingham Forest are one of the clubs sniffing around from now as well. So look, plenty of suitors for him. Michael Noonan kind of has a pick of the bunch by the looks of it. And then 5 minutes later, you see exactly why. Michael Noonan makes a run, drift out to kind of the right flank, finds the ball, makes a darting run in the box, keeps going in, closes that gap on. You kind of the expected move is that he's going to try find someone to square it, but hits it near post and makes it 2-0, and that sends Rovers on their way. And a lot more of a relaxed kind of a environment, I think, for Rovers as soon as Noonan pocketed that second goal. And yeah, look, he took it well, and it was an important one at that. And look, for Michael, these goals will give him more confidence to kick on, and there's probably a good chance you might see him start on Monday. Quick turnaround, and look, obviously, Burke and McGovern started tonight, so yeah, you might see him start on Monday. I'd be slightly surprised if he doesn't, and if he does and can kick on from tonight's performance, because he was really good in the 20 minutes or so that he played. He was really good, made a positive impact. As I said, so did Aaron Green, but obviously look, Noonan topped it off with a goal as well. Overall, I thought Rovers got what they deserved. 3 points and a couple of goals to go with it, and it was a much needed win. And the main thing of it was a good performance to match that as well. Rovers now, look, they still stay 5 points clear at the top. Pats do have a game in hand. They'll have 2 games in hand after Monday. That's an important one to note as well. However that result will go, Pats will have 2 games in hand on Rovers. After Rovers play Derry City in Tallaght on Monday. So yeah, that's an important one to keep an eye on. But yeah, look, a much needed win on that front. And yeah, look, Rovers will take that confidence, hopefully going into Monday against Derry City. And look, it was a good game to go with it as well. And winning in the sunshine away from home is always that extra bonus as well. But look, we'll leave it at that for the Waterford chat. 3 points, positive all round. But we'll look back and look ahead to the Rovers captain. His name got sung around the away end on more than one occasion as well, and that is of course for Roberto Lopes and Cape Verde. Obviously Roberto Lopes played the 90 minutes on Monday, 5 p.m. Irish time for Pico and Cape Verde, as they played out a 0-0 draw with Spain. Quite heroic it was. Pico had, I think, 2 significant moments that stand out the most from that goalless draw. That one being he first half it's a looming ball into the back post. I think it might have been could have been Oyarzabal that's about to reach, is about to meet the header, and if he does, Vozinha, the keeper, is not gonna be able to have time to deal with it. But Pico's there, gets ahead of him and heads kind of out onto that right flank. Then of course you have the 88th minute or so, I think it is, that crucial block from Pico, and look, he inevitably, it's unbelievable, really, isn't it? Roberto Lopes didn't look out of place. He had huge support in Cape Verde, in Cape Verde too, but in America and of course back home, and in Tallaght there was a watch along party as well, of course too. But yeah, look, I think you can't really sing Pico's praises enough. He was incredible, and he showed he didn't look out of place. That's the main thing. It's been incredible to see exactly how far he kicks on. Look, he's used to dealing with better oppositions, in terms of, or European oppositions as well. Obviously, look, playing European fixtures with Rovers. But yeah, look, he was incredible, and it's an incredible story for Cape Verde, isn't it? Vozinha at full time, he was unbelievable as well. Look, if it wasn't for the amount of saves he pulls off, I think probably then Pico Lopes gets man of the match. But yeah, look, it's a great story, and obviously Vozinha touches on at the full time whistle that he was mainly in tears because his family couldn't be there due to visa issues, and also that his father and grandfather, who played such a significant role in his career, obviously passed away in the recent few years in the lead up to this World Cup. So, but it's just incredible, really, the story behind Cape Verde and being at that World Cup, and it's the true story of an underdog. coming up against Spain, and everyone, you know, I'm sure people have seen videos since probably of pundits talking about how many goals Spain are going to score. You know, it could be 5-0, 6-0, 7-0, and yeah, look, Cape Verde look good, really good, goalless draw, look solid at the back. I don't think there wasn't really obviously Spain had their chances throughout the game, but there was never a moment, I don't think, really where you're thinking this should be 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, whatever the case may be. And look, that's Pico's had a huge part to play in that. There's no, you can't beat around that bush. And yeah, look, obviously on the RTE studio as well, you had Stephen Bradley covering the game as well, which was nice to see. But yeah, look, overall, it's just it's a great story for Cape Verde. It's a great story for Shamrock Rovers, and yeah, look, it's one that I think one thing I've noticed from it, and I'm sure everyone else probably has as well, is that it's brought the League of Ireland community together too. You know, I've seen many comments from opposing, from rival supporters saying how proud they are, even of seeing Roberto Lopes just, you know, line out at the World Cup and play. Of course, you have Joe Yanang of Pats, who's at the World Cup too, but obviously he might not be playing for the whole thing. I know he's I think he's second or third choice goalkeeper too. So look, but to see Pico Lopes there and play, and look, you've seen the interviews, you know the story. If you're listening to this podcast, you're more than likely aware of his story. I'm not gonna relay it because I'm sure Pico Lopes is probably sick of telling it. But it is an incredible story. As much as Pico probably is sick of repeating himself, it is an incredible story. And look, we wish them the best here. Last week on this podcast, we only do it again. As they play on Sunday evening or Sunday night, should I say, for anyone from home who's gonna watch it. Cape Verde play Uruguay on Sunday night, 11 p.m. Irish time. So do make sure you watch that if you can. If you can stay up till nearly 1 a.m. to watch Pico Lopes line out. Look, yet again, it's another chapter in an incredible story, and he's doing he's doing Rovers proud, he's doing Ireland proud, he's doing the league. There's no one he's not doing proud, essentially. And look, it's a beautiful story. And to top it all off, you know, I had people in my job saying, you know, we're tutting and sighing when they got Cape Verde in a sweepstake, and now all of a sudden they're getting a 0-0 draw, and they're thinking they're getting giddy. And you know, it's a full well-rounded story. And I think, honestly speaking, if Cape Verde put in another defensive performance, you know, defensively sound performance against Uruguay, and just kind of shape up a little bit better up top, I think, I don't know, I think they could. I can see them getting maybe if they can get a draw out of Uruguay, beat Saudi Arabia, you know, they'd be laughing. And the other side of that coin, you're looking at, look, I don't know, I just think with Cape Verde, there were moments probably, I think, for some of the players, look, their first World Cup, is that I think they might have panicked a little slightly, when kind of going forward and attacking Spain, because there were a couple of moments where I thought, particularly late on, they looked like they were in, on one or two occasions. You're thinking, if they can feed the flanks or make one run, or, you know, pass it off somewhere, or if they're taking shots from distance on a couple of occasions. And look, it's understandable, of course. But yeah, if you fine tune them things, I think they could have taken Spain on Monday, for example. Now, might be getting slightly ahead of myself because I want to see Pico do well at the World Cup, but look, it's incredible. And yeah, look, we all wish him well at the Milltown Way here at the World Cup. He's a credit to himself, his family, Shamrock Rovers, anyone who knows him, you know, friends and family. And yeah, look, hopefully he's going to do it again, and he's going to do everyone proud again anyway, regardless of what happens. But hopefully it's another good result as well to go with that. When we speak to you next, because we were speaking to you on Monday after the Derry City game. And yeah, look, we'll speak about Cape Verde's game against Uruguay as well. But look, I'll move it on from the Pico talk. I could ramble on for probably the full episode, really, talk a Pico episode, which we might do, who knows. But yeah, look, there are, in other Rovers news during the week was, of course, the European draws that took place between the Champions and the Conference League that Rovers were involved in. So obviously Tuesday, Shamrock Rovers were involved in the Champions League first round qualifier draw. On Wednesday, they were involved in the second round of the Champions League draw too, and the second round of the Conference League draw. So a lot of draws Rovers were involved in, three of them to be exact. So just a quick run through on what they were. So Rovers drew Floriana of Malta in the Champions League first round qualifiers. They are away for the first leg, back in Tallaght in the second leg. It looks like it's more or less confirmed that they're going to play Floriana in Malta on Tuesday, July 7th. And the reason I think that's pretty much nailed on is, number one, the club charter information went around and they said that it seems to be Tuesday the 7th of July, albeit not fully confirmed. And secondly, Shamrock Rovers game with Sligo Rovers that was scheduled for Saturday, and the 4th of July at 7:45, that was moved to the Friday to accommodate that game. So yeah, I do think we'll see that game is going to be on the Tuesday, the away leg against Floriana anyway. So 7th of July, it seems, 7th or 8th of July anyways, one of them. Rovers will be in Floriana playing Malta. For Malta playing Floriana. It's getting late. It's after 1 a.m. I'm still recording here. Floriana away in the first leg. Second leg then it's either the 14th or the 15th of July in Tallaght Stadium, home to Floriana. Obviously that will be the deciding night to see if Rovers are going to advance to the second round of the Champions League or if they're going to drop into the second round of the Conference League. Then the draw was done for the second round of the Champions League to see who the winners of Shamrock Rovers and Floriana will face should they make it, or whatever team will make it. And they will play the winners of Ararat-Armenia and Riga. Obviously Ararat-Armenia are of course of Armenia, and Riga of Latvia as well. Again, they'd be away in the first leg of that, home in the second leg. That's an important thing to know. The away leg would be the 21st or the 22nd of July, and then the home leg would be the 29th or the 30th of July. And then finally you have the Conference League second round draw. Should Rovers be knocked out of the Champions League first round, they'll face either Kauno Žalgiris, I want to go with, of Lithuania, or Drita of Kosovo. They'll be at home on the first leg, away in the second leg. So home on the 23rd of July and away on the 30th of July. Drita, if you do remember, or jog your memory back, they did play Shelbourne as well. So yeah, decent side. But yeah, look, we'll obviously be covering this in a lot more detail when the tie comes around. Obviously it's not too far away either. I've already seen Hoops fans who are booking trips to Malta, and I'm sure, look, they'll be hoping that they'll be booking flights as well to either Armenia or Latvia too, to follow Rovers in the pursuit of, well, look, whatever European competition will take us. But the draw, I think, on paper was kind to Rovers. I will say that Rovers on paper should be the favourites to face Floriana of Malta. I think there'd be a slight, without becoming complacent, there'd be a slight expectancy from on Rovers to qualify and beat Floriana. And look, everyone knows the importance of winning that first round tie, because then what you have is, look, I know, again, we'll cover it again when the time comes to it, but you lose that first round of the Champions League, you go second round Conference League, whereas if you make it to the second round of the Champions League, it goes, if you lose that, then it's third round Europa League playoffs of the Conference League. So yeah, look, I think Rovers are the favourites, I think, on paper to beat Floriana. And yeah, as I said, the draw has been kind. Rovers' first trip to Malta since 2022 as well, bear in mind, and that was to face Hibernians, where it ended 0-0 in Malta. Obviously Rovers winning 3-0 on aggregate. And then you have but if you do remember, Rovers didn't go to Malta last year in the league phase of the Conference League. However, they did face a Maltese side in Hamrun Spartans. That was the last game of the year as well. Rovers winning 3-0 on the night, and if what you remember is that game didn't really mean too much in terms of progress, because Rovers were already out of the Conference League phase by the time that fixture had come around. As, look, I think you saw Rovers prioritising the pursuit of winning the double as opposed to making it out of the league phase of Europe, which is understandable. But we did have a conversation around that time. I remember in the gear up to the Hammer on Spartans game, thinking, should you rotate, because it's a kind of meaningless game on paper in terms of qualification. However, we went through the sums of money you get, for the different outcomes of the match. So, look, obviously, Rovers want to pursue the, getting 3 points and just banking what you can out of it, because, and that's, look, it's your every right to, this is what you're in European football for. And look, they'll want to do that again when the time comes to make that trip to Malta. And yeah, look, if you're listening to this episode and you've either A, booked flights and accommodation and the rest that goes with it to Malta, or if you're in pursuit of doing that, let us know. And if you're booking if you've paid that €100 deposit for the club charter, also let us know as well. We want to hear how. I know people are going separate to the club charter. Sometimes the club charters can be a little bit more expensive. Obviously, you're getting a direct flight there, to and from Malta, and no layovers, none of that, straight. But the negative is expensive, and most of the time you're only getting there in the day of the match, and you're kind of flying home nearly straight after the game. That's normally the way it is. However, they haven't finalised the club haven't finalised details of that. So do stay tuned for that. But if whatever way you're getting there, planes, trains, and automobiles, let us know. If it's nothing I love to hear more, it is how fans are getting to these away games, layovers, whatever it may be, or if you got a good deal on flights to Malta. I know maybe some people are getting good deals, but I know flights will quickly rise as well once Michael O'Leary of Ryanair sees Rovers are going to a country that Ryanair fly to. I think flights tend to skyrocket as well. But yeah, look, Floriana first before we even think about second rounds of any competition, regardless of what one Rovers are going to be in. Hopefully it's the second round of the Champions League. On paper it should be. But yeah, look, as I said, on paper, favourable draw. No such thing as too much of a favourable draw in terms of Champions League pursuit. But look, looking at Floriana, you think, I know they've only won the Maltese League there a month ago, but you think Rovers should be doing the business and getting to the second round of the Champions League to face either Ararat-Armenia or Riga. But look, we'll move it on. Games are coming thick and fast, and Shamrock Rovers host Derry City this Monday in Tallaght Stadium. And it's another big game for the Hoops, and as I said, there is no rest for the wicked. Punishment of success, I'll say it every episode. That's exactly what this is, because it's a game being brought forward because of European football. Rovers played Derry, obviously. Look, it's the 4 teams involved in Europe playing each other on Monday, same way it was when Rovers went to Dalymount on that Monday too. But yeah, look, it's going to be another crucial game, and yeah, it's one of these that you need to consistently now start banking the points on the board, because Pats are now going to have the games in hand. Look, you rather have the points in the bag than the games in hand. However, you do want to just keep going with that. It's very easy to kind of, I don't know, drift maybe. Look, Rovers are going to play 3 times in a week between tonight and next Friday, because obviously, look, they'll host Galway then next Friday. I also note the earlier kick-off time of that game, 7:30, due to concerts in Marley Park, I think I heard. That's why it's an earlier kick-off, not your traditional 8 p.m. But yeah, Derry City, look, they're on the back of a disappointing 2-1 defeat to Galway United, disappointing for them. And they played in the Gas Stadium and Pierce Stadium as well. So yeah, look, Rovers want to take advantage of that. And they only have one win in their last 9 games, and that came against Bows, a comprehensive 4-1 victory in Celtic Park. But look, Rovers now, if it's anyone, Derry City, they're quite a hot and cold team. Form's dropped off quite a bit for them recently, and particularly losing to Galway. Particularly Derry City are 6th, Galway are now 7th. Only a point separate them, but Galway have 2 games in hand. It's worrying form for Derry. Also to note, Drita are 8 and 3 points off Derry and a game in hand over them. Now, goal difference quite significant there in the difference, but still, Derry City, I don't know, not looking good. You had James McLean coming out recently on RTE. He was covering one of the World Cup games, and yeah, just speaking negatively about Derry City, it seemed again, saying how he wasn't happy to be back. His family were, but he wasn't really. There's never a time I don't think where James McLean doesn't give out about something. But yeah, look, if he sticks to that and sticks to not putting balls in the net, that's all you can really ask. I know obviously he came off the bench against Galway. So look, he'd be in line to probably get some minutes against Rovers on Monday. But yeah, look, 8 p.m. kickoff in Tallaght. It's another big game. There's no such thing as an easy game when it comes to facing Derry City. They're always a tricky opposition. Rovers, yeah, look, it's Rovers are well versed in facing Derry City in big 2026 as well. It's going to be their fourth time this year to face each other, because obviously they played each other in the President's Cup as well. Derry City winning 1-0 there in Tallaght Stadium. It's been 1-0 every time the two have faced as well. You've had 1-0 in Tallaght Stadium to Derry City in the President's Cup, 1-0 to Rovers in Tallaght Stadium in the league, 1-0 to Derry in Celtic Park in the league as well. So look, it could be another 1-0. Hopefully it's the Rovers if it is going to go anyway on Monday. But yeah, look, it's a quick turnaround. It's not the most it's not the most convenient to be playing each other, or playing even Friday, Monday. Stephen Bradley doesn't like. He's spoke about it in the past, but on these occasions when it's to do with European football, I think Stephen Bradley more alludes to it as well, particularly when it's when it's a bank holiday, for example. I know you want to take advantage of being able to play earlier. We see 5 p.m. kickoffs, and we're myself and Adam have complimented them when you see them, 2 o'clock maybe, the daytime kickoffs, so to speak. But yeah, them ones can be a bit maybe getting in the way more so maybe, and a lot of work on the players. That's before you think of anything else of before you think of anything else, is player welfare. Playing 3 games in the space of literally 7 days is not easy going, and that's what Bradley kind of alludes to when he does speak on the matter. But I know, obviously, look, in this case, it's because of European football. The games are getting brought forward to give, for the first round anyways, is to give kind of a week apart. So Rowers go Tuesday to Tuesday, say for example, if the second leg against Floriana is going to be on the Tuesday, which I would suspect it will be. It allows that week, but look, that week buffer. But I suppose they don't have that week buffer for any other round. Normally there's a game, then all the games get pushed to the Sunday. Still no word on. It was confirmed, it seems, that Rovers will play Cork City on Friday, July 17th in the FAI Cup second round. But it did have an asterisk beside it if you check that FAI kind of press release, news statement, whatever way you want to address it, that it was subject to European football. But they knew Rovers were going to be in European football regardless. So I don't know if it's a case of, are they going to keep it on Friday should Rovers play Tuesday? I don't like the idea of that. However, I know it is also 3 days, or 72 hours it would be between kick-off times of 8 p.m. on a Tuesday, 8 p.m. on a Friday. So look, they might keep it that way. But look, I'd say if you can avoid it, you avoid it. However, look, going off topic, Derry City, it's a big game for Rovers, and it's a must. It isn't. It's a must win. Look, there's no way of decorating it, because Pats are going to have games in hand there now where they can start to bank and think, like if Rovers are to drop points, let's say it's even a draw, 6 points down would separate the two teams. Pats have 2 games in hand, and Pats have better goal difference as well. So yeah, slightly not slightly concerning at the moment, because look, Rovers haven't played Derry City, haven't dropped points at the moment. So yeah, look, I think you'll see a slight variation or rotation in the lineup between tonight's game and Monday, to be expected when it's a quick turnaround. As I said, I do think you'll see some sort of shake up on that front two. I don't suspect you'll see both Graham Burke and John McGovern start against Derry City. Michael Noonan and Aaron Green. Probably I would put, if I was to put money on it, I would be saying you'll see a swap of the two. You'll see Aaron Green and Michael Noonan start both both occupy both of them front two positions. Elsewhere in the pitch, I think it'll be largely similar. You might see Adam Matthews. You saw him getting minutes tonight. He might come back into the starting 11. It'll be interesting to see how Bradley goes about it, because you need to be thinking longer ahead as well. Galway Friday, Sligo the following Friday. Then it's European football all of a sudden, and with European football comes then the cup football. FAI Cup starts at the same time. So yeah, look, it will all of a sudden feel like it's going thick and fast, and that's because it will. But yeah, look, Monday's a big game. It can't be understated, and yeah, look, it's another must win for Rovers. Does it feel too early to be saying a must win? I don't know. Look, only 14 games remain in the league at the same time, albeit it's only June and the league doesn't end till November, and there's only 14 games. I don't know. That feels slightly off to me, but it might be just spot on really, because I don't know. It's just the fact that the European football only getting started now, and the cup football for Premier Division side is only going to be getting started. Yeah, it's an interesting one, but yeah, look, I'm looking forward to it, and yeah, looking forward to European football that will come with the territory too. But yeah, Monday, Tallaght Stadium, 8 p.m. Make sure you're there. Rovers face Derry City, and a big game, and another 3 points needed. But that's it for episode 37 of the Milltown Way. Nearly 1:30 in the morning when we're wrapping up here. But yeah, as I said, I'll be back Monday after the Derry City game. We'll discuss that. We'll discuss Pico Lopes, Cape Verde as well, facing Uruguay and looking ahead to their final game against Saudi Arabia, and we'll look ahead to Rovers game on next Friday against Galway United. Other than that, that's it for episode 37. Thank you for listening. As I said, make sure you do drop us a follow across all the social media platforms at the Milltown Way, and do make sure you like, follow, share, whatever you want to do with this podcast. Make sure you tell everyone about it. And yeah, we'll chat to you after Derry City. Thanks for listening.